Spirited Away, the anime film to define all anime films that came before and after. The Citizen Kane of anime, the movie to be the only one to win Miyazaki and Ghibli an Oscar, until a boy in his harem came along. The film everybody points to as to what anime can do and make you feel. So, I watched it again with the folks. So, why wasn't I blown away by it? Well, first, some background. I am only trying to get more into classic movies like Spirited Away. Actually find good movies as opposed to complaining about the current film or superhero movie release. I never really watched too many anime films or television shows growing up. The only films I got were strictly for kids. Pokemon, Digimon, some Sailor Moon. I did have an interesting after-school care where I do remember watching part of Spirited Away and Hellraiser. Yeah, figured that one out. Of course, the problem with trying to watch a very emotional, powerful movie when you are stuck at after-school care is you are watching it on a crappy TV, with crappy audio, little kids screaming and playing and running around, can barely hear it, your parents can also pick you up at any time, and Ghibli films usually run 2 hours and are usually reliant on the quiet moments. So a lot of distractions and subpar equipment. I only ever saw 20 minutes of it, and this is 20 years ago, so memory's a little fuzzy. Can't really get immersed in the movie with all that stacked against you. And again, the only other movie I remember from that time is Hellraiser, somehow making it in. 20 years later, I finally saw Spirited Away proper. Big screen, proper audio mixing, sound dampeners, the dub playing.
Well, why you boring me? I'm right.
So I have everything set up properly, but I still didn't love it. Why? Let's break it down and see where the fault lies. We will start with the plot. What is Spirited Away? The story starts out with the family moving to a new house, but they get lost along the way and end up at what is thought to be an old abandoned amusement park. After over a river and through the field, they end up finding some old looking shops, one of which attracts the parents with some food, leaving Chichiro all alone to fend for herself. She runs into Haku, who tells her to get out of there before the sun sets. Of course, we know when people are greedy and eat without permission. She fails to get back to her world and now has been spirited away.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Haku finds her and helps her sneak into the bathhouse and gives her instructions on the rules of this world, all in the pursuit to get a job from Yababa, the bathhouse manager. Running to colorful characters from human-looking or adjacent workers to mythical creatures and yokai. Chichiro is on a quest to escape that place and turn her parents back into humans from being pigs. I guess we should start with what people will remember the most, setting and characters. As usual, Miyazaki delivers on the entire atmosphere of this world. Starting in the real world, but then changing to nightlife of old Japan. The design of the buildings and the bathhouses are reminiscent of an era you or your parents never witnessed. Usually with Ghibli films, they gotta go somewhere far off in order to get the inspiration for the film. Whether that be characters, setting, or theme. Lilo & Stitch co-director, Dean Dubois, said while trying to come up with a location for their next film, Lilo & Stitch, said that if you are working for a movie, and Disney is paying travel expenses, go somewhere exotic. For Ghibli, they did the opposite. The buildings, they just took the designs from the buildings at an old architecture museum nearby. The character designs were taken from old Japanese folklore. Some you may recognize in the background, but the movie is 2 hours and no time to waste. At most, you get this guy and that's it. The sound effects just came from local onsens. The design of Haku in dragon form, that's just a dog that they took video of to get the mouth to look beastly. It was all very local. So far, I do like looking at the production of it, so why did I not get into this? Maybe one reason I wasn't getting into it was because of Western films and how they are structured. I am used to films nowadays having that Netflix dialogue or basically spelling out the theme, plot, and direction that the movie is going. And I think that is one reason why Ghibli films are really beloved. They don't hold your hand. They don't tell you if something is right or wrong, just that it is. Of course, everybody has a style or theme if you stare at it long enough. Zack Snyder has a lot of flash. Gunn likes to insert his music playlist, and Miyazaki will always have an environmental message and a flying scene. Let's try themes. Another reason Ghibli films are of high quality They got layers. Princess Mononoke has nature versus industrialization and coexistence and balance. Howl's Moving Castle has identity, transformation, inner beauty, and love. Spirited Away has the themes that go beyond the usual in children's movies. Except that environmental message. That's a staple and does far better than other movies whose entire message is to protect the trees. Right, Lorax? So starting off light, let's go into child labor. Chichiro is a 10-year-old girl, and in order to survive in this world, you need to work. Huh. Well, that just gave you a gut punch of reality. The fact that children don't have to work now is a relatively new one. Kids had to start working even as young as 5, mostly because life expectancy was like 30. So you had children who would work, but usually at a cost. Sometimes it's the innocence of youth, other times it's just the ability to read. Spirited Away shows that, yeah, working can suck, and you don't want to do it sometimes, but that we are social creatures. Shows the bad like with the stink spirit, but also the good in Chihiro's connection to Lin. And hard work can pay off, as seen when that stink spirit is cleaned. The main antagonist is Yubaba, and my god, what's wrong with her head? Yeah, Chihiro is a bit stringy and a little ugly. Miyazaki's words, not mine. Yubaba is probably one of Miyazaki's most memorable designs. Yeah, you have other creature designs that people like in this film, but with her, she's more face than body, and when you're the main character and every facial movement can be seen, it does become a challenge. And she was a challenge. So much so that Masashi Ando, animator, character designer, and filmmaker, begged Miyazaki not to add any more characters. And, in Miyazaki fashion, obliged, and added a new character, Yubaba's twin sister, Zeniba. While you can call this lazy, I prefer to search for meaning into this, even if this was done out of convenience, which it probably was. Another lesson for your work and your work-life balance. You are not your job. You have your work self, your Yubaba. And then you have yourself at home, your true self, your Zeniba. You've seen the joke of seeing teachers outside of school, or your boss at an event. People act different when working. Sometimes it's little, sometimes it's a lot. Hell, I have had several conversations with my mother. Do you act like this at work? I curse like a sailor when I'm at home.
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits!
But going into the office, I put on my professional face. At home, the mask comes off. And normally they would go into an explanation of it, they are the same person, or spend screen time explaining the meaning. Instead, we skip all explanation. Are there two, or are they the same person? They did want to make her a little bit taller to tell them apart, but the work-life balance theme would have been lost and not as impactful. Just like we need to work, we also need a self to handle it. Your work self, your uniform, your mask. And speaking of mask... You know, for a guy who doesn't even have a face, this guy kind of became the mascot for this movie. Next to Totoro being the mascot for all of Ghibli, No Face is probably the mascot of Spirited Away. He's an original character for Miyazaki. While the others have some connection based on their design or personality, No Face is the only one that has none of that connection. And as for impact, well, you've seen him pop up every now and again in one form or another in other media over the years. When asked what his purpose is, Miyazaki responded, "There are no faces all around us, because there's only a paper-thin difference between evil spirits and gods." And on top of that, this film is set in Aburaya, a bathhouse, so once you open the doors, all sorts of things come in. He also said that there are no faces everywhere. People who glom onto someone else but have no sense of self. Not too easy. When No Face shows up, he's another spirit in the crowd. He tries to please everyone, but flattery will only get you so far. When Chihiro shows kindness, he basically starts to turn into an incel, following her around, giving her gifts, showing off your wealth, being rejected for that wealth, and then throwing a tantrum. He is only fully accepted when Zeniba asks him to stay, instead of the other way around. He has mimicry, where he takes on the personality and voice of those he eats or absorbs. He has alchemy, or the power to turn mud into gold, something into something someone actually wants. Nothing is really his own or done without selfish desires behind it. Another theme for our final and main character, Chihiro. Chihiro is our young 10-year-old girl protagonist. Very rare for a girl to be the main character in a fantasy story. Usually it's the boys saying,
I'm going on an adventure!
Chihiro's design is based off the daughter of one of Miyazaki's friends. All we know is that the dad does look like this. Starting out, she is a little shy, timid, scared. Understandable after seeing this. Forced to work, or
You could be a piglet, or maybe you'd prefer a lump of coal.
she is literally thrown into this world and is forced to mature, to adapt, to work, to survive. And sometimes in that pursuit to grow up, you change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. We forget who we were. We forget our name. Oh, one more thing. Yababa says you can't leave the bathhouse without subscribing, so go on, prove her wrong, and click that button before she turns you to a pig. That contract that Yababa prints up is what turns Chihiro to Sen. Sen is the work self, and Chihiro is the true self. That's the literal journey for Haku. He forgot his name, so he can't return home. Only after Chihiro names the river that's gone is his true self shown. He never really smiles throughout this movie. Only after learning his name does the smile and twinkle in his eyes pop out. One of the inspirations for Spirited Away was hostess bars. No, not like that. Kind of. I mean, one of the skills that kids have to learn at some point is talking. And yes, speaking and talking are two different things. Children speak what's on their mind. Talking is a skill and requires two people to communicate. The bathhouse relying on hospitality, talking is a skill you do need to learn in order to operate in that environment. Same with hostess bars. The latter of hostesses are shy and are forced to communicate with men. They pay to express themselves at those places. You can see this with Chihiro learning to speak up when serving in the baths or trying to get a bath token, while No Face fails to express himself when offering Sen the tokens in gold, and opts to either use violence or money to get what he wants. As we follow Chihiro throughout this journey, you see her mature, you see her grow. This is essentially a coming-of-age story. She starts out the story very timid, very scared, clinging to her mother, powerless in the spirit world, forced to adapt in order to survive. Of course, she sucks at doing the job at first, but then through perseverance, gains the respect from the bathhouse's inhabitants with each new challenge. I think that's one of the aspects this film surprised me with. Normally, especially with anime, it's very easy to opt for the good versus evil battle, where Chihiro gets powers, or is the chosen one, or maybe all three. It's very rare to see the hero persevere through compassion, kindness, hard work. Through this journey, she comes out more calm, more determined, more mature, only shown more with Haku telling her to keep moving forward and not to look back. With Spirited Away, I think that was a lot of people's introduction to anime. Well, not exactly. Pokemon and Toonami were essential mainstream introductions to the West. But you need something more in order to win over the masses. Spirited Away was that film, not only showing a different type of hero that doesn't need to be violent to solve problems, but one that is very heavy in Japanese aesthetics. From the different creatures you see, to the building and architecture, to references to some of their customs. Hell, you could even say this was the first Academy Award winning isekai, before they infested every anime season. And of course, the references are everywhere, and far in between. Even Miyazaki will reference Miyazaki. But of course, this just bridges over to the question, sub or dub? The debate that anime has gone through since its inception. While now, the dubs are more or less on par with the original. Remember that this was dubbed in 2001, and we still thought this was acceptable.
Hey, love a girl who treats me like dirt. Hey, gorgeous, you remember me, right? Any chance you're free from...
Unlike with Princess Mononoke, where they had to send a sword to get the message across, this time, Walt Disney and specifically John Lasseter from Pixar again, very lucky that Spirited Away wasn't their first. That honor goes to Kiki's Delivery Service. Which, yeah, I know I said I will do at some point. If I get up to 500 subs, I will do Kiki's Delivery Service finally after a year. But yeah, Kiki was the first and probably best case since they do have an alternate ending and they were still in that era of you need noise all the time, music, sound effects, whatever.
Kiki's Delivery Service. It's a journey of friendship and courage. With Kiki, a witch in training who's just getting the hang of flying.
Anyway, after listening to the two of them, I can say the sub is better. That's not to say that the dub is bad, I do like the voices that they chose for Chihiro. This was before Shrek, so they were actually trying to get the right voice instead of a celebrity voice.
Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, John Lithgow.
It does start to turn into a who's who of Disney. Like there's Lilo, Max, Meg, Jumba, Kiara, Zira, Ham, and Bucky. No, not that one. They didn't change the ending this time, but there were some differences. Obvious one is since this is very Japanese, not everything will translate over and requires an explanation. Hell, even the Chihiro voice actors didn't know about the breaking of the curse custom. So you'll get some explanatory dialogue to explain that this is a bathhouse, or the rules of this world.
It's a bathhouse.
While much appreciated, it does take away from the film's ambiguity. The dub has more heightened emotion to convey happy, sad, anger, fear, jealousy, while the sub sounds more natural. And of course, the quietness. Like I said in Howl's Moving Castle, Miyazaki makes films for children that teaches patience. Not every single moment needs someone talking, cracking jokes, delivering exposition, or some kind of giant orchestra telling you how to feel. Hell, you can see that with the editing of my videos, especially with the audio. I always need some music playing, a sound effect, or something, because this is the age of TikTok. I need something waving in front of your face to keep your attention. But sometimes, you just need to sit down and enjoy the view. It's all about the journey, and that is what you get with that famous train ride. The train is honestly essential in this movie. Yes, really. After getting thrown into this world, getting a job, dealing with a temper tantrum that left a lot of damage, dealing with literal shit, you need a breather. And the train is basically your break. To put my literary representation glasses on without looking at those videos, this train ride is basically the embodiment of coming of age, at least in Japan. Public transport has been said a dozen times over that Japan's public transport is really good, whether by speed or timing. I mean, aside from Tokyo and Shibuya, where they stuff them into cars or get upskirt shots, where this happens. Anyway, children eventually have to go to school by themselves. There aren't that many cars in Japan, and they don't do that thing over here where you need 1,000 cars to drop off students. It's why a lot of anime has students walking to school or taking a bike. Anyway, some would be close by and can walk while the others that need a bus or a train to get to school.
Get on with it! Yes, get on with it!
Okay, so my theory for this is that the train ride is meant to show how Chihiro has matured. What do I mean by this? Well, new word, unlock. Miyazaki likes to put in ma moments, gap moments, just a spot to relax with nothing busy going on. Relating this back, kids have to basically learn how they should act in public. You've seen it before with toddlers acting out at random places. Parents are basically there to help them deal with their emotions, to regulate them. And yeah, the parent can help control the kid, but they can't stay with them forever. Eventually, you have to let them out into the wild and hope you instilled strong convictions and morals into them. You kind of saw this with Chihiro in the beginning, squirming in the back seat of the car, where later on the train, Chihiro is not as fidgety and able to get off at her stop, while also chaperoning a mouse, a bird, and No Face. And remember, no books, no phones, no iPads to pass the time. Just locking in. I will also praise the score in this one. I didn't do it last time in Howl's Moving Castle review, but it's the same guy, Joe Saishi. He's been the composer for Miyazaki since Nausicaa and the Valley of the Winds, and will still make scores for him. Every time I hear his score, it's like the sound of classics like Bach or Beethoven, but in a more modern setting. I just need him to do Ode to Joy and I will be happy. So I've gone over the production of this, examined the shots, themes, characters, and I can say I do like it more now. But why don't I love it? It's on the pedestal of GOAT anime movies. It has a nice production, it has a great sub, a fair dub, It even got a stage production of it. It has a fantastic soundtrack. The animation, there's nothing to say about the animation. It's top tier. It's one of the things that people point to whenever discussing this movie. Everyone discusses the animation. It's hand-drawn. Miyazaki storyboards guide it. They did have to make 100 cuts to it, and they were on a tight deadline, but they made it. It does use some light 3D CG for some shots, but everything else is hand-drawn. The story and lessons are unique to it, and in children's films in general. What is wrong with me? What is it? What am I missing?
10歳の少女のための映画をまだ作っていない。今は明るくて元気な彼女。でもこんな世の中、彼女はずっと元気でいられるのだろうか。それがこの映画を作る直接のきっかけになりました。彼女のために映画を作ろう。当時、彼女は10歳でした。それで主人公千尋も10歳になったのです。
Maybe it's just that. This just wasn't made for me. Art is subjective, and what you like will defer to what I like. Your greatest movie might be the worst movie I ever seen. I think it's a combination between Ghibli's Spirited Away being hyped up to hell and back, the prestige it carries from awards to the studio, and I am not used to Ghibli's films pacing. I'm accustomed to more Western films needing to fill every second with sound or visuals. Again, you can see it in my videos. You need a voice going at all times. Put some music in there, some sound effects maybe. Oh no, copyright detector! Make the sound or video worse! Better flip it. Again! Filter it! Again! Again! Need everything busy, otherwise I'll lose the audience. Oh, movie reference! I wanted to test this again, so went to Spirited Away for a second viewing. I actually liked it more the second time for the sub, which is very rare. I think I also understand it more now. This movie's target audience, or at the very least what it's about, is a little girl growing up, coming of age. But unlike Western films that will spell it out for you, they leave things ambiguous here. My parents didn't even pick up on the work self versus the true self metaphors, or even the more obvious coming of age story, until we talked about it. This movie wasn't made for me. I am not a child, I am not a girl, I am not Japanese. All the problem solving in the movies I've seen are solved through physical power, brute force. Chihiro, Spirited Away, yeah, had to get physical at times, but ultimately found another way to overcome, persevere that didn't require a weapon, prophecy, or anything like that. I am not used to all that at once. I didn't love Spirited Away at first, but through this journey of self-discovery and learning about the process, I think something rare is occurring. That like is turning into genuine love for Ghibli films. I'm starting to understand why Ghibli is held up on a high pedestal. The story is unique, the characters are three-dimensional, even the background characters. The animation, I rarely need to comment on because they always bring their A-game. They don't try to cut corners. But most of all, they don't condescend to you. They don't have an obvious good versus evil. They may not even have a clear-cut message. That's up to you to figure out. It's just a story with a plot, and whatever message you can take away from it and turn it into something good, well, that's probably the greatest tribute you could give as a fan of any medium. While Spirited Away may not be my top Ghibli film, maybe it could be later. Usually, I see a movie, and if it wasn't good, we'll leave it behind. This one, I feel, falls into that rare movie that gets better with each rewatch. But the only thing you could do is just keep moving forward and not looking back. Well, that's another film I could add to the belt for Ghibli movies I see now. I am slowly getting these movies down. Like I said, any suggestions for any movie, series, book, manga, tome, I will see if I can work it into the schedule. Just remember to drop a like, subscribe, have a conversation in the comments. Jopan, out!